Yo, 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 what's going on, guys? New and improved right here. I got this little microphone here that clips on my shirt. Threw that on, and hopefully you guys can hear me a lot clearer. So today, I want to look at a few cryptos that I've been watching. ADA was one beautiful one here that, although I was expecting a little bit lower, the 170 range, we actually got a bounce at that 187, 188 range that I was discussing being a possibility of a perfect bounce. And if we did hold that level, how absolutely gorgeous this chart would look. Because looking in the past here, we had, this is on a daily time frame, but we had, where was it? Oh, right here. We had this rip to the old all-time high last time and a complete fall right through that level. We came back, we got front ran a little bit, people took profits before the target, came down, double bottomed off this 138 and got rejected at that 187, 188 level. Tried to hold this level as support, we couldn't do so. Came up, couldn't hold it as support, we fell, we came up, we blasted through that level, came back and back tested this level. Now that to me shows that this 140 level is an area that at some point, not sure how it's going to work out, but say this reaches some new crazy high points, $5, whatever it ends up doing, even if it just goes to $3 or something, and we were to get a giant blow off top later on next year or whatever, that a new low or a new bottom that could be formed, depending, this is just speculation of course, a new bottom could be formed at that 140 level potentially, or we could also make a case that this will be a new floor here where we're at. Now, that's just something I'm speculating on later on if we were to get a massive correction that scares everybody out type of deal, and see how this $1 range ended up becoming a floor. Then it's possible that this ends up becoming a pretty good floor later on down the line. But for now, let's look at what we have going on here. So we had this descending triangle that we had to break down from. We bounced off this and created new support here with this one tap, came up, we broke out of that descending triangle, and then finally we got a huge rip out of it. It took us a little bit of time to get above this 245 level, but as of right now, although we're getting a sell signal potentially here on the 4 hour, it's pretty clear we're going to get that. And we had some bearish divergence here on the 4 hour. You can see on the RSI, our price action when we came up here was way up here. And then this time we came up way higher, but we were way down here in the RSI at an 82 versus this 87. Now, the thing for ADA that we discussed before was that a lot of times we don't really top out, and it doesn't have to happen the same thing every time, but we don't usually top out until we tap this upper white line here in the higher RSI area here. So that would mean that it's very possible that ADA before a correction, a bigger correction, could actually create some type of inverse head and shoulders on the RSI. This would be forming a right shoulder right now, and then rip up and either get rejected again in this 88 level or even blow into some newer highs, even further highs, and come up past that white line, which we don't ever do. But that's just like I said, that's just something I'm looking at. However, for now, although I longed from the 189, I did close my profits at 254 is where I closed, because I was going to close it at this 245, but I wanted to wait and see if we were going to rip through that and make a new high, which we did. Now, right now, we could make this case, just using the 4 hour candles, we could make a case that ADA is in a it's pretty obvious it's in a corrective movement right here. However, it's really trying to hold this previous all-time high as new support. Now, although we're getting some wicks, that's not what I wanted to draw. Although we're getting some wicks below, we're still holding that level. So if this was creating a further descending triangle here, whether we end up breaking to the downside or a further move to the upside, this could be another strong move. Now this is a much smaller descending triangle, but it seems like, well, this was more of a falling wedge here, but you can see this was probably more like a, a bull flag or a falling wedge kind of deal here. Yeah, it was. This here brought us up to here, created this descending triangle, or potentially another, could make a case for that rips us up here. Now, right now, we're definitely finding support at this 240.5 level, and we have this descending resistance here that's pretty clear, and then we have this upper main key resistance at 252.6. So, we could play potentially a move out of this, but it could easily just top out here and then roll and fake us all out here. And the reason that I am considering that being a potential is only because although we're getting a nice bounce on that 4-hour RSI, if we look here, and this isn't confirmed yet, we have some bearish divergence forming here. Now, this is on the daily time frame, which is going to be a lot stronger. So, if I zoom out here, we can see what I'm talking about. So this first initial move here, right? That's our first peak. That's our first peak on our RSI, and we're way up here. And now, right now, our second peak is way up here, but on the RSI, we're way down here. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with bearish divergence, but that is what's being formed right now. And usually, in most cases, it's your first signal, because you do want to, you can take profits on 1-hour time frames and stuff like that if you're doing really short swings and stuff, and you don't want to be at a loss or anything like that, of course. But when you're making these bigger swing moves, this isn't that big of a move, but for me, it was a lot of profit from this 188 to 254. So this usually will be your signal of your profit taking right here, because it means the momentum is slowing down. And also, if we look at the 4-hour time frame, we can see this volume here. We had this one volume peak there, but now the volume's just been slowly dropping off. So sometimes that's a signal of a big move. Now this RSI is starting to roll here, so we can keep an eye on that. I can pull some indicators up, but we do have this sell signal coming in on the 4-hour. We already had that cross recently on the 3-hour, the 2-hour. Now everything's starting to slowly roll up here on the RSI. You can see here on the 1-hour, we could, take a look at that, see if we can find a bigger potential pattern. So, maybe this idea of this inverse head and shoulders on the RSI could play out right here. So, it's possible that we could have another move coming here to the upside, but we need to see this by daily divergence cancel out, which would mean another bounce here on the RSI before a rollover. If we start rolling over a lot, then that's going to be a confirmed divergence. So it's not confirmed yet, so it's just something to keep an eye on. However, for me, I did close out, but I am willing to hop back in a trade, and most likely, if I was to, I will be posting it on the TradingView account. Now, what I will most likely be doing is entering somewhere up in this range. I want to see, maybe a 1-hour candle up here, maybe start holding it on the 1-hour until we get a 4-hour up here. And then I want to start seeing some volume picking back up to show that, hey, we are actually starting to get some buyers coming in here. And that should be a pretty good signal for me that, hey, the market is agreeing that we should be going higher from here, and this is just a small corrective phase. So anyway, that's where I'm at with ADA, and I am keeping an eye. And you can see on this 4-hour, we drew these lines out last time on my video here that we like to bounce off the 64.9 area. We so far hit the 68.12. It's starting to roll a little bit here, but it's not like a complete, really great bounce. It's just a little small notch here, so it's not that important just yet until we see a good solid RSI spike. And it won't be too late to enter at that point, so it'll be something to keep an eye on as well if you're sitting around watching the charts or keeping alerts set. So for me, usually something that I would do is I would, look at my area that I would like to see. I could do an area at 250, or I can do an area at 257, and then I would just hit my alerts and change this here to 252.7 and create. And that right there is going to give me an alert when we get back up to this trend line, so that I can keep an eye on whether or not we're going to get any closes above, and I can start watching it from there. And until then, I'm out of my trade. I have nothing to risk, and I don't have to worry if this thing rolls over. So if it was to roll over, though, there's a couple areas that I'm watching. We have an area that is around like 217 to 215. 217 to 213. But my key area right now would be to watch this 225.8 to 225 range. And that would be based off of those wicks. We could potentially move this down here and say that this was the biggest area right here, which would make a little more sense, which is like 218. And that you can see that we had a bunch of wicks flying up over this level, but all our candle bodies closed below. Bunch of wicks again. We complete rejection, a wick again, complete rejection, and then when we finally blasted through and closed above, that was when we had our big movement. So that's another area that I'd watch to the downside if that was going to be what's going to go on here. But ADA is very strong. It could use a cool off, which is kind of what's going on here. But in my opinion, if we do get a break out of here and we do start confirming support above this 253 level and closing more than, you can see this 2-hour candle closed above, but we just got rejected on the following candle, which is why I'm talking about a 4-hour candle, but I'll probably watch it on the 2-hour frame because I usually like to do that. But if we were to get a 2-hour candle close here and then the following candle was to close above, and we had a nice big volume spike rolling in, then that's a great trade because, it's not like you're going to just move up most likely 20 cents. It's probably going to be a pretty good movement from here. And depending on if this is just a descending triangle or if it's like some kind of, flagpole, even just from like right here, we could actually look at what our next target would be if this was to occur, which obviously would be from the breakout of here, or if this whole thing is like a bull flag here, you would be from there. Then we would be shooting up potentially up to this $3 range. So I'm just curious, and I am going to be watching, but that's going to be a move from to a 50-cent move or so, which, when you're using a lot of money, it's a pretty good trade there. So, that's something I'm going to be keeping my eyes on. And yeah, that's where I'm at right now, but I am just going to stay cautious here, but I am going to look for an entry if I need to, or I'll be buying some dips if we do get a corrective dip here. So that's pretty much it. And I think for now, I am going to do some other altcoins, but for now I'm just going to close it out here because I don't want to make this video an hour long because people start not wanting to listen as much because I do ramble a lot. And if you enjoyed this video and if this was helpful at all, or if you guys listened to my ADA video on the last, I would love to see some like buttons. It really makes me feel better when I see people liking it rather than just watching it and not doing anything, because it just kind of, it hypes up my confidence a little bit more, just to know that you guys are enjoying it. So I appreciate that, and hopefully you guys like this new audio, and hopefully it sounds a lot better. All right, that's all I got for you. I could pull up some, indicators real quick, actually, just to see. This is a Keltner channel, and the one good sign here, actually, that can make a better case for, rather than just looking at normal chart action, would be looking at this Keltner. So this is a 4-hour Keltner channel. So you can see we're getting resistance under this top line of this Keltner channel, which is a lot like Bollinger Bands, but it's actually, there's more to it than just the Bollinger Bands, so it actually shows you a little better support. But you can see we would roll above it. When we got rejected on it, we come down to the second Keltner channel line, get a bounce, and we started riding up this on the top of it. And then we broke it here, hit the support, kept getting rejected under it, and then we fell further for a further correction, came to the bottom of it, and then, whoops, why is this doing this to me? There we go. And then we once again started getting on top of it, and now we're starting to roll underneath it. So if we were to get a fall, we could get a bounce here at this 235 and come up. And if we were to come to the bottom of it or wick below like before, we're looking at closer to that 225 range, 225 to 223 range here, which is close to my initial area of where I'm looking for. And if we were to have like a wick below this bottom line, that would be that 219, which is roughly, see how we wicked below here, tapped our support, which was closer to this cloud here, this cloud support. We do have a lot of cloud support down at this 208, 210 level as well right now. But if we were to trade sideways for a little while here and just continue in this, and we'd have to change something, if we were to have a fall, then at that point, this later on of course, then our cloud obviously support is going to be up in this 225 range as well. So I have a lot of things pointing to this 225 range. And then on the weekly, all our Ichimoku cloud is below us. On the daily, our Ichimoku cloud is below us. When we broke this resistance of the Ichimoku cloud here around this $1.46 level, that was when we really took off, and that's why it's so important to look at the cloud. But you can see the Keltner channel starting to roll over, and sometimes that gives us a pretty good signal. However, on the 1 hour here, we are still holding support on this cloud. So if this was to turn into a smaller double bottom here to bring us back up, depending on if that follows through and continues up, then that could give another signal. But I am watching some of these momentum and some of these things rolling over here, but obviously we're still in the cloud. We're just right now getting rejected underneath this old previous all-time high, although we could be double bottoming here. So if you did want to make a play on here, you could do a nice play with a stop loss below like 240. That would actually not be a bad entry, but like I said, if this isn't going to get a bounce here, then, and if it can't get back above that 252 and hold it, then we might be looking at something different. But for right now, actually, it's looking like you could get a double bottom here on the 1 hour time frame. But you can see, obviously, like I said already, the Keltner channel is rolling over. And then another thing that I like to look at real quick is one more thing before I go, and I know I was just going to go, but I just remembered I wanted to, why is that not erasing? But okay, there we go, sorry about that. Another thing that I wanted to look at here was, let's see, we have the ribbon, and then we have the Williams alligator. These are a couple of my indicators that I like to use. So on the Williams alligator indicator is a momentum indicator as well, and you can see that when we were in this beautiful, beautiful run here, we were finding support above all of these momentum indicators, and as of right now, we're falling below here. So we really need to get a bounce above this 147.3 and hold above it here. That's just on a 1 hour time frame. And then on the 4 hour, our Williams is starting to roll a hair, but we're still above it here, so that is a good thing to see. And then on the daily, we don't have any signs of it rolling yet. We just have our first, red candle, rejection candle, with a little bit of a lower peak here on the wick. So we weren't able to get as high. So depending on what this plays out as, because although I see that descending triangle on the 4 hour, if we were to potentially create a descending triangle here on the daily time frame, then this could just be a slow grind down before ultimately blasting back out to newer highs, which would also bring me to my potential idea of this 225 area. So these are just a lot of things that I'm trying to use in my favor here to decipher the trend direction, and then also decipher where could we get a bounce, or where would this breakout be, and so on and so forth. But our ribbon, our EMA ribbon, is still flashing green. We don't have any bearish signs yet on that. And also another thing to think about here, which is pretty insane to show how bullish, even with this small correction, how bullish ADA is look at the daily EMA ribbon. It is still red. And look what happened the last time that we flipped from red to green on ADA. We had a percentage gain of, it's insane. Now, I'm not saying like that that's going to happen, but we went from 10 cents on ADA, which is crazy to think that in December of 2020 we were at 10 cents, and we ripped all the way up here until we finally flashed red on ADA, which was right down here where we double bottomed below. And then when we finally closed above that, which was right around the same area of that Ichimoku cloud resistance of 144, we had a rip, and we're just in a tough spot here, because although we made this higher high, which can potentially cancel out this potential of a double top here, but it's still got to be a little bit cautious. So I am trying to be cautious and just check all my angles here. But we, on the weekly time frame, look like we have a lot more room. We could come up if ADA continues, and we did get a weekly MACD cross as well. So that's a lot of very bullish longer to midterm signs here. But this video is very long, so I apologize. And if you already got bored, well, I don't blame you. But that's where I'm at. So we'll just keep an eye on this thing, and I'm going to have my alerts set so that I know if I want to enter a trade or not. We'll see. And I hope this was helpful. And until next time, peace.